Moving on now, a major showdown is expected at the United Nations today.
Oh, we don't want to talk about this. So anyway,
yeah, we do, actually.
Who wins today?
As Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas continues his push for full UN statehood, in just a few hours, President Obama will address the General Assembly. Advisors say the president will focus on the lack of progress in resolving the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, an issue he made a priority when taking office. Following the address, President Obama will meet with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And last night, the White House announced that the president has added a meeting with Abbas to his schedule today in a last-ditch effort to dissuade him from seeking UN recognition at the Security Council.
Richard Haas, we're in a terrible position here. It is a nightmare.
Well, it is a nightmare. Nothing good could happen if this goes to the UN. It's not going to pass the Security Council. If it forces the United States to veto, it'll stir the Arab world, which is already plenty stirred. There'll be all sorts of retaliation against the Palestinians if they then take it to the General Assembly, where they can get something passed. The Israelis could make life much tougher. Congress could cut off aid. The only way history says you ever get progress in the Middle East, as tough as it is direct negotiations. So this is a sideshow, a distraction, call it what you will. Abbas is frustrated. He's desperate. He's doing this. He may actually hope that this gets the Americans and others to put more pressure on the Israelis, but this is a bad idea.
Well, I'll tell you what, and President Obama right now, Mika, is in a no-win situation, an absolute no-win situation.
Well, Richard calls it a sideshow. There is another sideshow to the sideshow pertaining to this story. With President Obama in town, Texas Governor Rick Perry was also in New York City yesterday, slamming the president's, quote, policy of appeasement in the Middle East.
We would not be here today at this very precipice of such a dangerous move if the Obama policy in the Middle East wasn't naive and arrogant, misguided, and dangerous. Israel is our oldest and strongest ally in the Middle East, a democratic ally in the Middle East, and it has been for more than 60 years. The Obama policy of moral equivalency, which gives equal standing to the grievances of Israelis and Palestinians, and including the orchestrators of terrorism, is a very dangerous insult.
You know, the big news there is from Perry's statement, of course, Mika, is that he used the word precipice. And he got it out. It was rough, but he got precipice out. Mitt Romney, though, also speaking on this issue yesterday.
Yep, former Massachusetts Governor Mitt Romney, Perry's chief rival in the 2012 Republican race, also went after President Obama's foreign policy yesterday, accusing him of, quote, throwing Israel under the bus. Romney addressed the president's upcoming remarks at the UN. In a statement, he said, in part, quote, he must make clear that if the Palestinian Authority succeeds in gaining any type of UN recognition, the United States will cut foreign assistance to the Palestinians as well as reevaluate its funding of UN programs and its relationship with any nation voting in favor of recognition.
Okay. You know, good luck. By the way, good luck finding anybody in Congress during the years I was in Congress that had a stronger pro-Israel record. Good luck. You won't find it. Talk to AIPAC, all right? But Richard Haas, it's just not this simple. As these Republican candidates, I believe, are being as reckless as Barack Obama was in 2008 before he realized the constraints of the presidency. And I don't think this is helpful. I'll just say it right here. Everybody who watches this show knows I tell it like it is, whether I'm going after Barack Obama or whether I'm going after Rick Perry or Mitt Romney. This is not helpful when our president, America's president, is in the difficult situation that he is in today in New York City with I think, one of the most explosive situations on the globe. And we've got Rick Perry and Mitt Romney posing for political purposes and undermining our president. That is dangerous, and it's not good for our country.
Let me say two things. The whole idea of a Palestinian state, which, again, shouldn't happen through the UN, it should happen through negotiations. But a Palestinian state is not a favor Israel does for Palestinians. A Palestinian state is a favor Israel does for itself. We want Israel to be secure. We want it to be prosperous. We want it to be democratic. We want it to be Jewish. The only way we can preserve Israel as those things if you have a Palestinian state.
And the Israelis don't want to be occupiers.
Absolutely
we have
not.
seen them giving land back to the Palestinians when it wasn't in their best security interest because they don't want to be occupiers. It's not, forget the Palestinians, like you said, that's not good for the Israelis.
And the whole idea of cutting off the $500 million in aid that the U.S. gives to the Palestinians every year doesn't make sense for a good reason. The only bright spot is the fact that in the West Bank is you actually have some progress. You have economic growth now, 7%. You have security battalions trained by the United States and Jordan that are able to keep security and keep the peace. This is the beginnings of a responsible neighbor for Israel. This is what every Israeli wants. They need a responsible, capable neighbor that can help maintain the peace. We should not isolate these. As bad as it is, as bad as an idea it is to go to the UN, this kind of retaliation would be a big mistake.
Well, and that's my point. As a supporter of Israel, as a lifelong supporter of Israel, I think this is reckless and irresponsible because it undermines our president. But secondly, because cutting off aid, Mike Barnacle, would undermine Israel. They want a responsible neighbor.
Does anybody here think that Bibi Netanyahu is also trying to undermine our president, playing footsie with the Republicans in the House of Representatives?
Thank you.
Is he an obstacle to a peace process, or is he helpful to it?
The problem with the Israeli government, it's been so consumed with the domestic politics of Israel, maintaining this incredibly difficult coalition, that it hasn't put forward very creative ideas. It's been more interested in some ways sustaining the status quo. And again, in the long run, it's not good for Israel.
All right. I want to get to Afghanistan.
You got a
Take
BlackBerry,
your BlackBerry out of
Richard?
your pocket, Richard. Hand it to me right now.
It's off, I think.
It's off?
Yeah.
I don't think it's off. Let's go. Let's see if it's
Look
off.
at this
Is it
poll,
off?
though.
No, it's on silent.
Really?
Yeah, well, you got to turn it off because it's interfering with the microphones. You know what? Seriously, we let one Yankee fan onto the set, and things start going apart.
We have to confiscate them
Seriously.
sometimes. Before we get to Afghanistan, which was major news there as well, take a look at this poll. It's a Pew Research Washington Post poll showing that Americans have mixed opinions about a possible independent Palestinian state. 42% say that the U.S. should recognize it as an independent nation, with 26% saying no. 32% say they don't know. I just point that out, just wondering what the Republicans are doing jumping into this and wondering if they should just stay out of it.
Well,
what do you think?
Well, Willie, obviously the Republicans sense weakness. The president's relations with Israel have not been good. And again, on this show, I have been critical of the way the president has handled America's relationship with Israelis over the past 2.5 years, and I think for damn good reason. But I think the Republicans are overreaching, and they're stepping into something they shouldn't be stepping into at this particular moment in time.
They certainly see a political opening. About what Rick Perry said, though, Richard, that the president is giving equal sympathy to the Palestinians and to the Israelis. Is there any fairness in that statement?
No, because the United States has made clear it's going to veto any resolution for Palestinian statehood that comes into the Security Council. But the administration has created problems for itself. You know, the initial emphasis just on trying to stop Israeli settlement activity. Yet there's irony. The detailed day-to-day security cooperation between the United States and Israel has arguably never been better. But the whole atmospherics of the peace process and the U.S.-Israeli relationship are not good. And that's what you're seeing. The outside perception is much worse than the inside reality.
And then on the Arab side, how big is the threat if they go through to a vote on Friday? The United States vetoes it. We've heard this is going to inflame the Arab world. Start up some anti-Americanism again. How big a threat is that?
That's real. The big change in the Arab world is Arab people are now a real part of Arab politics. We no longer just deal with the Mubaraks and others. You've got to deal with millions of people in the Arab world. They now have a voice. And if we veto, this has the potential to become the most combustible issue in the Arab world. That's a real thing.